Welcome to Television Sydney News. I'm Bianca Martins. It's great to have you with us. In this week's bulletin, witnesses to a bikie brawl asked to come forward, CCTV footage released after $1.2 million worth of cigarettes stolen, and Quidditch comes to Western Sydney. But first, a Blacktown councillor says he's ready to sit down with the founder of a Facebook group critical of the number of Africans living in the area. Councillor Susai Benjamin believes the creators of the page have little understanding of the many cultures in the area and he'd be happy to enlighten them. The Facebook page questions why so many African refugees have been given housing in Blacktown and preaches white supremacist ideas. The group who started the page has previously held white supremacist meetings at the Rudi Hill School of Arts building. Blacktown Council recently unanimously voted to write to the Australian Human Rights Commission about the page to see if any law had been broken. Councillor Benjamin believes the sentiment the group expresses arises out of ignorance.
When I became aware of the contents of the Facebook, that the people of African background are in Blacktown and for some reason they shouldn't be there, I was suddenly appalled.
Councillor Benjamin says all communities living in Blacktown need to find a way of cooperating and living together without conflict. He says the council has also looked into the possibility of launching a campaign to educate Blacktown residents about the harmful nature of racism.
We're going to look at the possibility of engaging with the secondary schools in Blacktown Council area to launch an anti-racism campaign.
Despite numerous attempts, the creators of the Facebook page could not be reached for comment. Witnesses are being asked to come forward to help identify bikies involved in a brawl at Parramatta. A number of men believed to be members of the Comanchero and Hells Angels bikie gangs were involved in the brawl, which occurred at a Parramatta hotel in February. Numerous people were throwing punches and chairs during the incident. Police have released CCTV footage in the hope that more witnesses to the incident will come forward. Meanwhile, officers have seized steroids, ammunition and what is believed to be cocaine during a search of homes in Hoxton Park and Fairfield linked to the Hells Angels. Police expect to make several arrests over the seizures. CCTV footage has been released in a bid to find those responsible for the theft of $1.2 million worth of cigarettes. The cigarettes were stolen from a Wetherill Park transport company during two separate raids in January. In both incidents, the thieves used a forklift to shift the pallets of cigarettes onto a truck. Police believe the incidents are linked and that the offenders were familiar with the premises. Police would like anyone who has information about the people shown in the CCTV footage to come forward. Western Sydney has too many councils chasing too little revenue, according to a new report into the sector. The Local Government Review Panel report says while many councils perform well, the sector is weighed down with too many out-of-date ideas, attitudes and relationships. In a proposed revamp, extensive restructuring would lead to fewer but larger councils across the Sydney Basin. Under the plan, Parramatta and Liverpool would be greatly expanded to support their roles as regional centres. While the state government promised no forced amalgamations, reaction has been mixed. Parramatta Lord Mayor John Cheddar welcomed it, saying the city is key to the region's future growth. But Liverpool Mayor Ned Manoon says he doesn't see how it will bring strategic benefits to the area. 8 community hearings will be held across Sydney starting this month to discuss the plans. Sergeant Andrew Knight has been named Blacktown's Police Officer of the Year. The former head of Blacktown Local Area Command's proactive team was honoured with 4 other colleagues during a dinner at Blacktown Workers Club this week. Sergeant Knight, who joined the force in 1996, started at Blacktown in 2007. He says it felt sensational to win and was grateful just to be nominated.
The proactive team, particularly Blacktown, we go out there and we target crime on the front foot, so we try and target hotspots or repeat offenders and try and prevent the crimes, or we catch the people in the act of committing the crimes.
He says what he enjoys most about his job is helping the community in their time of need.
The best thing would be helping victims of crime, whether it's in finding their property that's been stolen from a break-in or helping a victim who's been robbed down the street.
Blacktown is one of the largest commands in the state with more than 170 staff. Sergeant Knight now works at the State Crime Command and was one of 22 officers nominated for 5 awards on the night. He also took out Team Leader of the Year. Detective Superintendent Mark Wright says Blacktown is an area with diverse demographics and a large population, presenting local police with many challenges. A new taxi rank is being trialled in Liverpool to see if safety improves in the central business district. Liverpool licensing sergeant Gillian Gibson says the taxi rank in Macquarie Street is in a well-lit area and provides a safe set-down and pick-up point for patrons who visit licensed premises on Friday and Saturday nights. It will be manned by security staff between 11:30 p.m. and 3:30 a.m. If the trial is successful, it could be rolled out to other parts of the Liverpool area. Betrayed youth, suppressed grief and the theatre's most famous question, to be or not to be, will be explored in an adaptation of Hamlet at Parramatta this weekend. Even though Sport for Joe Theatre's version of the Shakespearean classic is set in the modern world, it conveys all the themes of the original. Director Damien Ryan from Bella Vista says it tells the same story of politics, passion and corruption.
To me, to dress characters in Elizabethan costume in 2013 is slightly absurd in a way. These plays do work if you make kings look like a king might look today, and you make a young university student called Hamlet look like a university student would look today. So there's no barrier between the audience and the action.
Ryan founded the Sport for Joe Theatre Company to allow Western Sydney residents the opportunity to participate in the arts. Sport for Jove originally produced the adaptation in partnership with the Seymour Centre in Sydney as part of an education program for New South Wales schools, but has now introduced it to the wider public.
It is a big text in the HSC in New South Wales, and one of the most important things I think school students particularly need to be supplied by theatre companies such as ours is good, powerful experiences of these plays.
The play is being performed at Parramatta Riverside Theatre. Contractors are on the job from dawn to dusk, 6 days a week at Prospect to complete the $115 million Wet n Wild Sydney theme park in time for its December opening. About 200 workers and 20 machines are transforming the 25-hectare site into a massive water-based theme park. With recent rain putting construction about 3 days behind schedule, the contractors will seek permission to work on Sundays if there are any more delays. Most of the groundworks at the Reservoir Road site have been completed and structures are emerging from the ground for the 42 slides and attractions, which include a beach. About 300 jobs will be up for grabs when the theme park opens. Foodbank New South Wales has received $2 million from the state government to help it build a bigger warehouse at Wetherill Park. The organisation's New South Wales head, Jerry Anderson, says the funding is appreciated and he's calling on the federal government to match the contribution. Foodbank distributes surplus food and groceries for more than 450 food manufacturers and retailers to feed more than 100,000 people in need. Babies are needed for a long-range study on the learning disability dyslexia. The University of Western Sydney's Baby Lab is researching whether it's possible to detect signs of dyslexia in infants. Baby Lab coordinator Rachel Lee says the research would mean dyslexia sufferers wouldn't have to endure years of difficulty at school before getting a diagnosis. Babies would be included in the study from the age of about 5 months until they turn 5. Mrs. Lee says undiagnosed dyslexia can often lead to or be mistaken for willful disobedience. Local women will tell their harrowing stories of survival when the Borkham Hills African Ladies Troupe performs on stage in Parramatta this month. The troupe includes 4 African refugee women who will tell their personal stories celebrating human rights and resilience. Rosemary Kariuki Fife, or Big Mama Rosemary, is the oldest member of the troupe and moved to Australia in 1999 to escape tribal clashes in Kenya. Now working with Maryland's police, she was last year named Parramatta Council's Citizen of the Year. Miss Karaoke Fife was contacted by Director Ros Horan through the New South Wales Service for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture and Trauma Survivors to tell her story. In the production, Miss Karaoke Fife tells audiences about growing up in Kenya and says all the stories will inspire others. The Borkham Hills African Ladies Troupe will perform at Parramatta's Riverside Theatre from May 9 to 18.
Whatever happened to you, it just happened.
And in sport, the Penrith Panthers are confident they can beat the Sydney Roosters this Sunday after a convincing win against local rivals the Parramatta Eels on Monday night. Panthers halfback Luke Walsh says it was a tough game against the Eels despite Penrith winning the Western Sydney Derby 44-12. Walsh says the Panthers are expecting an even tougher game against the Roosters, but he's confident they can win.
Yeah, definitely. The boys are looking forward to it all week. It's always a tough game, so it was good to get the 2 points.
Panthers coach Ivan Cleary says his team will need to be in top form for what will be a challenging game on Sunday after such a short turnaround from Monday's match.
It's a tough ask on Sunday, but these sorts of challenges is what you live for, really.
The Panthers will play the Roosters at 3 p.m. on Sunday at Allianz Stadium. Midnight basketball returns to Mount Druitt this weekend. The program at Kevin Betts Stadium aims to keep young people off the streets and offers a healthy dinner and workshop sessions as well as a fun game of basketball. Now in its second year, Midnight Basketball is open to anyone aged from 12 to 18 who lives in the 2770 postcode. Program Chairman Michael Cruz says the community will benefit from the initiative, which attracts both boys and girls. Speedway racing is in Danielle Levy's blood. The 20-year-old from Dural competes in the Formula 500 division, following in the footsteps of her grandfather Lionel and her father Keith. She is the only female in New South Wales in the 500 division, but says she isn't treated any differently. She races under number 68 in honour of her grandfather who died in a racetrack accident in 1968. Levy says the adrenaline rush is the best thing about racing. And finally, the players aren't wizards, the broomsticks don't fly, and the quaffle is usually a volleyball. Muggle Quidditch, adapted from the fictional sport in the Harry Potter series, has leapt from the pages of J.K. Rowling books and onto sporting fields around Sydney. Local players hope to find some new recruits for a Western Sydney team called the MacArthur Weasleys during free comic book day events in Campbelltown on Saturday.
There's about 6 teams in Sydney, but they're all based right in inner Sydney. So we want to try and get some more teams, more players coming from Campbelltown. We've got a few people interested, so it'd be nice to have a bit of a competition going out here.
American university students first adapted the game to the Muggle world in 2005 and has now won fans across Australia.
We try and make it as similar as we can. Obviously we can't fly, but we still ride a broomstick, so everything is pretty much the same.
Local players hope the sport will take off with Muggles throughout the western suburbs.
I mean, we're all geeks here, so we're just looking for other geeks to play Quidditch with, basically.
And that's all for this week's bulletin. For more information on any of these stories, pick up your local Fairfax community newspaper. I'm Bianca Martins. We'll see you next time.